Good morning. How we doing? Great to be here. Great to be here. Thank you, Andres, for the introduction, and thank you to Director Prabhakar and the White House Office of Science and Technology for leading on this and so many other defining issues of our time. Just 2 days ago, I attended my daughter Celine's high school graduation. As you can imagine, the emotion that I felt being there, handing her her diploma, saying a few remarks to the graduates. And just for some perspective, here's what the world looked like if you're in this year's graduating class. If you're 17 or 18 years old, you were born in 2006 or 2007. Just in those 2 years, the world got the iPhone, and Netflix started streaming. And by the time my daughter and her classmates were around 5 years old, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat all existed. By the time she was 9 or 10, TikTok existed. And then on top of all that, the COVID-19 pandemic hit as they were going from middle school to high school. So basically, in March of her 8th grade year, she went from being in class, and remember back then they said, you'll be back in 2 weeks, remember that? So she went from being in class to being fully remote for the remainder of that year. And she was in Algebra 1, and let me tell you, that was a shift. Technology came to the forefront for their learning and their social connection to their peers in a way we've never seen before. As a father of 2 teenagers at that time, my daughter downloaded an app. It was called House Party. I don't even know if it still exists. That was her socialization. And I remember my wife and I saying, wow, I'm thankful she has that, because what they needed the most as 13-year-olds was that socialization. And my son, who was 15 at the time, a sophomore in high school, his socialization was impaired significantly. And you know how he socialized? His Xbox. Yeah, I see heads nodding. When my son, who's sophomore in high school, dealing with this disruption, I hear him talking loudly in the basement and laughing and giggling and talking to someone really animated. And it's because he was playing a FIFA or Madden with his cousins and with his friends from school using technology to connect them. It was amazing. I wanted to start with that whole piece, talking about the graduates and what they've experienced from their year of birth to when they were a little bit older, 5 years old, to when TikTok started, when they were leaving elementary school, to the use of technology during the pandemic, to capture the pace and scope of the change affecting our nation's young people thanks to technological advances. It's also a reminder that we cannot wish away technology disruption. When I started as a teacher way back in the 1900s, some people would get fixated. I remember the conversations in the teacher's lounge about whether the internet was a good thing or a bad thing, and whether it belonged in our classrooms and our students' lives. While people were debating that, the internet took over their lives anyway. I remember being a fairly new teacher and getting an iMac, those big green iMacs. It was a symbol of cool. The students in my class, they were all so excited about that, to have that. I think we did the Oregon Trail on it. I'm dating myself a little bit, but today, as we talk about artificial intelligence, let's look at it with this perspective, as was the case in the internet in the 1900s. The AI train has left the station, and it's moving full steam ahead. It may be in its early stages, but we can be sure that it's going to be present in the homes and in the classrooms of our country. And we can be sure that young people are going to use it in their lives and in their education, perhaps in ways we haven't even dreamed of yet. So we have to meet them where they are. We have to meet them where they are. Change is our friend. The good news is that we've been here before. We know what enormous disruption looks like, and we're at a moment where our choices about AI really, really matter. Imagine if in the early years of the Industrial Revolution, people came together and said, we want all the progress the revolution can bring, but we also want to make sure that progress comes with protections for workers and consideration of environmental impact. Imagine if early in the history of the internet we thought this is going to have vast implications for people's privacy or how people protect their own work. Let's go ahead and lay down some markers now. I can't help but think if we did that during the increase of social media for our youth, I wonder what impact that would have on what we consider now a youth mental health crisis. When it comes to AI, we still have a chance to think like that and make the choices that count. Our world is being disrupted for us. Education is being disrupted for us. Let's not waste the opportunity to shape transformative change for the better. That's why at the Department of Education's Office for Educational Technology, we came out with a report that explores the benefits of these emerging technologies, as well as the key risks, including AI bias and algorithms. One of the biggest things I appreciate about the report is the emphasis on the importance of trust, safety, and appropriate guardrails to protect educators and students. And here's a recommendation in the report that is absolutely critical when it comes to AI in education: informing and involving educators. Recently, I looked back to see what people were saying in the 1900s about what the internet would bring to schools and classrooms. In 1998, Education Week had this to say: when questioning whether the internet is developmentally correct for children, whether it inappropriately substitutes virtual for real experience, and whether it transmits unreliable and distorted presentations, we should remember that it is not Orwell's Big Brother who will be in charge of the classroom. It'll be a professionally trained teacher. That's an important reminder to us. No matter what technology is disrupting education at any given time, success always depends on the teacher at the front of the classroom and how they connect instructional content with student learning. That is the core. The product is only as shiny as the process in which it's embedded. We must think about how our systems will embrace it and support it and grow with it. When we respect and support our education systems and our educators, when we give them the professional development that they need and lift up their voices, I know the future for AI in classrooms can be incredibly bright. So today, let's talk about the challenges and the opportunities before us. Let's approach these technologies with intention in ways that enhance trust and safety for teachers, students, and families. And let's get ready for what's next. I look forward to learning from and with all of you. This is really an exciting time in education, and much like I would tell education leaders across the country in 2021 when we were reopening schools, yes, we were disrupted, but shame on us if we build it back the way it was before the pandemic. We owe our students better. And this is another opportunity where we have an opportunity to really reshape what education can be in this country. I'm excited about that, not only as Secretary of Education, but as a father. And I recognize the potential that we have at our fingertips. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone at our Institute of Education Sciences, Dr. Nathan Jones, who has been on the cutting edge of education research for many years and now serves as the commissioner of the National Center for Special Education Research. And you can bet he knows about the best educational practices in the country, and I'm not just saying that because one of his studies was in my hometown of Meriden, Connecticut. You'll hear a lot more about the aspirations for AI and education from him today. Really proud to turn it over now to Nate. Nate, thank you.
Good morning. I want you to imagine a version of education where every teacher could help every student receive an individualized education. This seems like a simple idea, but you should know this is a powerful one and a hard one to achieve. And why is it so powerful? There is a robust body of evidence suggesting that the most effective way to improve student outcomes is to provide targeted one-on-one instruction. We know that one-on-one instruction works across a large group of students and in a large number of contexts. But the problem is that our schools, as currently organized, aren't set up this way. We tend to group kids in clusters of 20 to 30 students for entirely sensible and logistic reasons. But it's clearly not the most effective way to meet students' needs. It is inarguable that a well-educated populace is a prerequisite to all of the aspirations that you will hear today. But there's also the reality that schooling in the United States is highly variable. We have over 13,000 school districts, and the education a student receives has historically been inextricably linked to where they go to school and what their background is. These effects have been most profoundly felt by many of our most marginalized students, students of color, students from low-income backgrounds, students in rural contexts. So if we could use technology to transform these fundamental barriers, it would radically transform schooling for the better. But these are not new ambitions. For decades, people have been promoting technology as the thing that will fix the fundamental structural challenges of schooling in the United States. Today, most every child has access to screens both in and out of school, but it's not like we've solved this individualization challenge. So why should we think AI is going to be any different? I think if we're going to be successful in using AI to transform schools, we're going to have to understand teachers themselves. So I thought this was telling. When I looked up stock images of tired teachers, I found literally thousands of them. So these potential users of AI can't take much more on. We have to meet them where they are at. So to give you a sense of what it looks like today for a teacher to plan and deliver instruction, let's just start with the example of beginning reading. So for an elementary school teacher, reading is one of the most essential tasks in front of that teacher. And they have to do several things simultaneously to make sure that their students achieve what we want for them. At the very beginning of the year, a teacher needs to take stock of where their students are at. What are the skills that they walked into their classroom with? If they are lucky, their school uses standardized screening tools that they can then use to get a better sense and a more accurate sense of where their students are at. From there, an educator has to take stock of where their students are at and then take the district curriculum provided to them and ensure that that curriculum maps onto their students' needs. Maybe they have some time to think about grouping practices. Maybe they have some time to think about revising the materials in front of them to make sure they meet the needs of the students in the room. And at the end of all of that, if they have any extra time, at that point, can they think about individualization? Now, fortunately, this is a space where we have already seen an abundance of AI tools emerge in the last few years. I just included a few examples of the kinds of tasks that AI at the moment are supporting teachers with, from creating lesson plans to generating high-quality, high-interest readings, and I think in our more ambitious versions, providing personalized tutors that students actually want to use. The question isn't, will someone develop AI technologies in education? That's already happening in spades. These tools have a long, long way to go, but they're only going to get better, smarter, and more capable. In education, the paramount issue is how the users of AI, educators, school leaders, students, parents, navigate this Wild West, where they are constantly being sold products promising to transform their lives for the better. The issue is both the volume of products coming their way, but also the lack of information about how to use them. So if we're going to achieve any of the promise of AI in education, it's not going to be because of technological innovation. I feel confident about that. It's going to be because there was a concerted effort at the onset to give users trustworthy information and resources to help them access and use these promising tools. I am advocating that we must build national capacity to achieve 3 simultaneous goals. The first is there's an urgent need for guidance and guardrails surrounding whether new tools reflect foundational principles related to privacy, transparency, and fairness. I can't impress enough the privacy risks at play. Schools store massive amounts of sensitive data about students and about educators. We can leverage these data, but as you can imagine, there's risks there as well. I think there is a role at minimum for the Department of Education to give guidance on tools that have key features in place. You can also envision futures where we're a little bit more aggressive in perhaps having a good housekeeping seal of approval for certain products that meet standards that are agreed upon in the field. Next, schools need information on effectiveness. I'm not just saying this because I am a researcher by training and at heart, but there's a role for high-quality evidence for educators and students to ensure that these tools actually improve outcomes, that they're not just kind of hitting education on the edges, but they're getting to fundamental core issues of teaching and learning, and we see evidence of their impact. This is going to mean a large investment in evaluation by the Department of Education and a continued commitment to foundational research, both in AI, but also in teaching and learning. Finally, there's the role of resources. There is absolutely a role for the department to play in ensuring that all students get access to our most promising AI tools. This is an issue of computing and technology, to be sure, but it's also an issue of training and support for educators to make sure they have the time and professional development opportunities to maximize the use of these tools. So when I think about impact, my mind immediately goes to where it always goes. This is the problem and blessing of being a former educator. I took this photo on my last day of teaching in 2004, as I was driving away from my middle school for the very last time. It was probably 20 years ago this week, actually. I can't help but think of the students I taught in Phillips County, Arkansas, one of the poorest and most isolated counties in the country. I was a middle school special ed teacher, something I'm proud of and I hold today very deeply. And when I started, our school did not have a current curriculum for my students. I was able to find a single box of dated textbooks in a supply closet somewhere. But my students were mostly reading at a kindergarten and first grade level. So every night, I would go home and I would retype the textbooks so that my students could access them. This is the kind of thing that would be incredibly easy for AI to support us with and would transform the lives of educators. Students in schools like the one I taught in have always been the last to bear the fruits of our technological innovations. And so for me, our standard for impact must include schools like this one. AI gives us the power to reach out to transform the lives of students and educators across all of our schools. But it's not going to happen organically, and it's not going to happen through the market. It's going to be because there was a concerted national effort to invest to reach each and every child in this country. And I think we should be satisfied with nothing short of that goal. Thank you.